In the last show, we explained that the erotic action that Shaul and Jonathan, the son of Shaul, took, that he was willing to give his soul for the Jewish people. And also we explained that he's scarier when he saw the devotion, how devoted was Jonathan. He decided that he's going to join him, and if he's going to die, he's going to die. He's going to give his soul for the Jewish people. We also explained that the prophet actually tell us that he adding up to the name of Jonathan the letters Hey, and he been called Yehonatan. And why Dafka Hey? So we explained that the Hey actually represent the name of the Almighty, that whenever you want to say, you want to write the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're not allowed to write his holy name. So we write the letters Hey that represent Hashem. And the Mefarshim explained that from here we learn that HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually given him Si'ata Dishmaya, that means help from the heaven. We also explained that the test that Jonathan and his carrier done with the Plishtim, when they revealed themselves to the Plishtim to know if they should go to war or not. After that, we also explained what's happened, that when Jonathan and his carrier managed to climb to the top of the mountain, with one strike, Jonathan actually put down 20 of the soldier, and the carrier finished them, he killed them. Shaul, when he saw what's happening in a tent of the Philistine, realized that there is something happening. Immediately he realized that a member of his soldier gone to war, and he asked to do a census, and they found out that Jonathan and his carrier, they the two that missing, and Jonathan done that action without actually telling not his father and no one from the army. At the beginning, Shaul wanted to ask in Urim and Tumim, and he asked Ahiah Kohen to ask, but the time moved so fast that Shaul actually realized there is no time to waste, and he given the command to go and to attack the Philistine. By that time that Shaul HaMelech, any soldier joined the battle, okay, it was such a chaos in a camp of the Plishtim that Jonathan was deep inside the enemy territory, surrounded by, obviously, Plishtim. He's killing them. From the other side, Shaul HaMelech, any soldier arriving and starting to kill, that caused a major chaos in a tent of the Philistine, and they were so confused that they start killing themselves. After that, we explained that Shaul HaMelech, actually, when he saw all of that, him and his soldier actually joined and start to chase the Plishtim, and the Plishtim started to escape, and many Jews joined the army and start to fight against the Plishtim. Shaul HaMelech, when he saw that great salvation that happened to the Jewish people, immediately make a decree that they should fast that day and no one allowed to eat, okay, until the night. And a matter of fact, he put a punishment that if someone from the soldier will eat, he said that he will be kissed, but was punishment of death. That's where we stopped. That was the end of verse 24. Today we're going to start verse 25, Be'ezrat Hashem, and let's see what it says. וכל הארץ באו ביער ויהי דבש על פני השדה.
Then all the people of the land came into the forest, where there was nectar on the surface of the field.
What's happening here? Here, the prophet tells us that the soldier, when they arrived to the forest, they saw a beehive that was full of honey, and they actually wanted to eat from it. But suddenly they remember the decree that King Shaul made, that no one allowed to eat, they obligate to fast until the evening, okay, and none of them actually eaten from the honey. And we have to understand, why is the prophet telling us all of that? That none of those soldiers that saw the beehive and saw the honey and they was hungry didn't touch it. We'll see later on in the psukim. Let's go to verse now, to the verse where I'm in verse, I think that verse 20, I was in verse 24, 25. Let's go to verse 26. Where's this 26 here? That was verse 26 and 25, sorry. In verse 26, Vayavo Amya, and in you want to read verse 26? Sorry, my mistake.
No problem.
Okay, my mistake.
You already discussed a little bit. The people came to the forest, and behold, there was an oozing of nectar, a lot of news coming out, but no one put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath.
Okay, that's what we explained. And verse 27, here we see something very interesting. And look what the prophet tells us. ויונתן לא שמע בהשביע אביו את העם, וישלח את קצה המטה אשר בידו, ויטבול אותה ביערת הדבש, וישב ידו אל פיו, ותראינה עיניו.
But Jonathan had not heard when his father adjured the people. So he stretched out the edge of the staff that was in his hand and dipped it into the nectar of the cane. He then brought his hand to his mouth and his eyes lit up.
Okay. ותאורנה עיניו. That's how we should read it. So what's happening in this verse? The prophet tells us that when Shaul made the decree that people should fast that day, and we explained that they should not going to come to feel arrogant that they're winning the war, okay, and they should be busy in the war. Shaul HaMelech told all the soldiers, but it was one problem. Jonathan and his carrier was deep inside the enemy line, because Shaul took quite some time for him and his soldier to reach to the top of the hill to join the battle. By that time, Jonathan already was deep inside the enemy line. He never heard about the decree that his father made, that people should fast, people not allowed to eat that day until the evening. So when he saw the beehive and he saw the honey, he took the stick that it was on his hand and he pushed it into the beehive and he tasted from the honey. Here become many questions that the Mefarshim ask. First of all, what it means v'ta'orna einav? That means that his eyes got lit. What it means his eyes got lit? Rabotai, there is what we call, Hazal call it bolmus. What is bolmus? Bolmus, it's kind of a situation that called a panic of hunger. People can die from it. If they're not going to eat, they can die. Jonathan realized that he had this kind of panic of anger, and he took his stick and he tasted from the honey. He needed to bring his soul back. That means he was so confused. He was so much in panic of hunger that he needed to eat something. So he tasted from the honey. The Mefarshim say, I don't understand. How can you take the stick that you're walking with and it's dirty on the ground and you shove it into the beehive and from that you're eating? It's actually not hygienic. So the Mefarshim explain, no, what he done, he turned it the other way. Where he was holding it, usually the stick that he hold, on the top, it's clean. He said that he turned the stick and he hold towards the bottom of the stick that usually, and where he usually hold it, he push it into the beehive, And when the honey was on it, he tasted from it. That's how the Mefarshim explain, and that's basically what's happened in verse 28. Let's go to verse 29, 30. And those verses, we see something very interesting. ויאמר יונתן, אחר אבי את הארץ, ראו נא, כי אורו עיניי, כי טעמתי מעט דבש הזה. אף כי לולא אכול אוכל היום העם, משלל אויביו, אשר מצא כי עתה לא רפתה מכה בפלישתים.
Jonathan said, my father has distressed the land. So now, how my eyes lit up, see now how my eyes lit up when I tasted just a bit of the honey. Surely, if the people had eaten today of the spoils of the enemy that they have acquired, would there not now have been an even greater blow against the Philistines?
In these two verses, the prophet telling us that Jonathan, when he tasted from the dvar, okay, couldn't eat so much, he tasted honey, okay, that his soul returned back to him. That means that panic of hunger disappeared. And he said, look, what confusion my father caused amongst the soldier. If he would allow them to eat, the victory gonna be actually much bigger. That means that the Jewish soldier will have more energy and they will have more strength to continue fight. They wouldn't be tired, they wouldn't be hungry. So they would kill in a Philistine much more than they killed so far. In verse 31, let's see what the prophet tells us. And in verse 35, ויקום ביום ההוא בפלישתים ממכמש אילונה וירא העם מאוד.
Right. Saul built an altar.
31.
Oh, 31, not 35. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm doing 35.
No, it's okay.
31. The people smote the Philistines on that day from Michmas to Ajalon, and the people were very weary.
Okay, what's happened?
They were tired.
The prophet telling us that the soldier that fought in a war, actually, it was a great victory. They actually managed to kill many of the Philistine soldiers, and it was in a place that called Michmash, where they camped against Givat Binyamin, that we say. Okay, and not only that, they defeated them in Michmash, they also managed to chase them away and to run after them until a place that called Elon or Ilona, like it said the prophet. But the soldier was very, very tired. And the reason for it was because they was hungry. In verse 32, let's see what's happening here. Here, ויעט העם אל השלל, ויקחו צאן ובקר ובני בקר, וישחטו ארצה, ויאכלו העם על הדם. Let's see what's happening here.
Yeah, the people swooped down upon the spoils and took sheep, cattle, and young cattle. They slaughtered them on the ground, and the people ate with the blood.
What exactly happened? First of all, we have to understand why the prophet said that they eaten on the blood. Okay, because we have a mitzvah from the Torah that we're not allowed to eat blood, because Hazal tell us Hadam wa nefesh, that the blood, that's the soul of a human being, that's the soul of the animal, we're not allowed to eat blood. Okay? What's happened in this verse? In this verse, the prophet actually described the condition of the soldier, that they was actually starving. And when the evening came, they took from the spoil. They were so tired, so hungry, that they couldn't think straight. They took from the spoil of the flock, the cattle, whatever they found, and they actually brought a sacrifice called Ban Shlamim, but they didn't even have a chance because they were so starving. After they slaughtered the animal, immediately they cooked them and they eat them. What they forgot to do, that the blood that been taken from the animal, they should put it on the mizbeach, on the altar, to sprinkle on the mizbeach. So what happened? Happened a situation that suddenly they eating a korban that they didn't even have a chance to sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach. That's what happened in verse 32 that the prophet actually tell us. And what they done, actually, it's a negative command, because they did not sprinkle the blood on the mizbeach. Let's go to verse 33. And in verse 33, we see something very interesting the prophet tells us. ויגידו לשאול לאמור, הנה העם חוטאים לאדוני לאכול על הדם. ויאמר, בגדתם, גלו אליי היום אבן גדולה. Where's the Baal Korah? The Baal Korah disappeared. I think that he have a problem with his internet. Until he's going to join us, I'm going to try to translate, not as good as, okay, Jeffrey with us here. He just joined us again, so Jeffrey can read for us. I don't know what's happened to his internet, but I just admitted him, so he should be. Bechavod, Jeffrey, you can read for us verse 33. Verse 33.
Right. They told Saul, saying, behold, the people are sinning to Hashem by eating with the blood. He said, you have transgressed. Roll over to me a large boulder today. Large rock, boulder.
Yeah. What's happening in this verse? Shaul HaMelech been told that the nation actually brought the sacrifice, but because they didn't sprinkle the blood on a mizbeach, that considers a sin, that they're eating blood, okay? And what he said to them, that therefore, what you have to do now, you have to bring me a big, huge rock, roll it to me, and we'll make that rock as an altar, and then I will sacrifice the korbanot, and then you can eat from it. That's the pshat of the dvarim. But we have to understand what's happening here. Benuli bama. What it mean bama? Bama, it's mean altar. But Hazal explain why they call that kind of altar bama. So bama, it's an altar that not inside the tabernacle. Wherever the Mishkan is, like Mishkan Shiloh, okay, or there in the Gilgal that we say that was from Shiloh, the Mishkan been moved to the Gilgal, okay. A place that wasn't, an altar that wasn't inside the Mishkan, called a Bama. A Bama is a platform. And that consider, they used to call it like a Mizbeach, okay? And that's what actually Shaul HaMelech asking the children of Israel, by that they're going to roll the big rock, he's going to make from it an altar that they can sacrifice the korbanot, and he will sprinkle the blood, and then they can eat from it. Okay, After they done that, let's look what it says in verse 34. ויאמר שאול, פוצו בעם, ואמרתם לה, הגישו אליי איש שורו ואיש שאו, ושחטתם בזה ואכלתם, ולא תחטאו לאדוני לאכול אל אדם, ויגישו כל העם איש שורו בידו הלילה, וישחטו שם.
Saul said, spread out among the people and say to them, let each man bring to me his ox, and each man his sheep, and you shall slaughter them here and eat them, so that you not sin to God by eating with the blood.
Okay, that's basically what we explained before, that he asked them to bring the korban, and he's going to do the shechita, he's going to do the sprinkling of the blood. By that, they're not going to sin. And verse 35, we see something very interesting. Shaul start to build the altar. ויבן שאול מזבח לאדוני, אותו החל לבנות מזבח לאדוני.
Saul built an altar to Hashem. This was the first of the altars that he built to Hashem.
Okay, what's happening here? That altar that they're talking about that he built, it actually was the big rock that the soldier rolled to him. That from that he's going to make the bama. The bama is an altar outside the Mishkan. It was the first one the Mefarshim explained that he done, okay, because you're not allowed to build wherever you want a mizbeach, or to do it on an altar. But Shaul here took that big stone. With it, the Mefarshim explained that he took also small stone. By that, he finished to build the altar. What does it mean? The big rock that he took wasn't big enough as a mizbeach, as an altar. He took small rock, and from that, he created a complete altar, and with that, he finished. So that was the altar that he built. In verse 36, we see what the prophet tells us. ויאמר שאול, נרדה אחרי הפלישתים לילה, ונבזוזה בהם עד אור הבוקר, ולא נשאר בהם איש, ויאמרו כל הטוב בעיניך עשה.
Saul said, let us go down after the Philistines at night and plunder them until the morning's light. Let us not let any man of them remain. And they answered, the people answered, whatever is good in your eyes, we do.
What's happening in this verse? Shaul HaMelech consult with the soldier. Should he continue fighting at night? That means continue chasing the Philistine and continue destroying and killing every man in the army. And obviously to take the possession, to take the spoil. And the soldier answered to Shaul a very strange answer. עשה הטוב בעיניך. Whatever look good in your eyes, will do. But we have to ask a question. Why did Shaul suddenly decide to ask if to continue fighting at night or not to continue fighting at night? That means, why did Shaul suddenly decide to consult with the soldier? After they eaten, after they have now energy, okay, they're full of enthusiasm again. Why did Shaul have to ask and to consult with the soldier to continue chasing and killing the Philistine or not? The Mefarshim explains something extraordinary. Listen to that. In daytime, say the Mefarshim, in daytime they never used to fight at night. The day, as long that it's daylight and they can see one each other they used to fight, is darkness come, the two different uh, armies used to go each one to his camp to rest. The following morning they used to continue. So what happened here? Shaul wanted to consult to know if to fight or not. So Shaul actually asked Ahia Kohen, the prophet Ahia, to
Yeah.
ask a question where in Urim and Tumim, the breastplate. Okay? Should they continue fight or they must stop fighting at night, they must rest, and the following morning to continue fighting. In verse 37, וישאל שאול באלוהים הארד אחרי הפלישתים, עתתם ביד ישראל ולא ענוהו ביום ההוא.
So Saul asked of God through the Kohen, shall I go down after the Philistines? Will you deliver them into the hand of Israel? But he did not answer him. Hashem did not answer him on that day.
Here we see that the prophet tells us that Shaul HaMelech actually asked Ahia Kohen to ask in Urim and Tumim. We explained the Urim and Tumim. It's the breastplate that the Kohen used to wear on his chest with the 12 name of the 12 tribes. And whenever the light used to shine, he used to know how to put each letters together and put it and to find the right answer. But here the prophet tells us that something strange happened. No light came on. That means that was no answer from the breastplate, that the Almighty didn't answer them. And that immediately lit the red globes in the eyes of Shaul HaMelech. In verse 38, ויאמר שאול, גשו הלום, כל פינותם הודעו וראו, במה הייתה החטאת הזאת היום.
Saul said, draw near to here, all you captains of the people, and find out and see through whom the sin occurred today. Wasn't answered.
Okay. What happened here? Shaul immediately, the king Shaul, when he saw that the Urim and Tumim is no answer from the Almighty, the breastplate, the letters on the breastplate doesn't shine, the breastplate stayed the same. Immediately he realized that someone broke the decree that didn't fast. That means he make a decree that people shouldn't eat, but someone did break the decree. Immediately he asked the people to realize, to understand why he didn't been answered from heaven. Okay? Why he couldn't finish the war on a Plishtim. Why he couldn't finish that war with the Plishtim. In verse 39, is something very strange happening here. כי חי אדוני המושיע את ישראל, כי אם ישנו ביהונתן בני, כי מות ימות, ואין עונהו מכל העם.
For as Hashem, the Savior of Israel, lives, even if the sin is found to be with my son Jonathan, he shall surely die. But no one of the people answered him.
Look here, something very interesting. The prophet tells us that Shaul HaMelech realized that was a problem with the decree that he made. And he said that even if my son Jonathan eaten, is obligated for the punishment of death. What is the children of Israel doing? Not saying a words. No one say words that the matter of fact is your son. Because in the previous verses, we hear that they said to Jonathan, why did you eat? And your father made a decree. You're not allowed to eat. You're not allowed to taste from the honey. No one opened his mouth. What is it come to teach us? It's come to teach us the Sheva of the children of Israel. That's come to teach us and to praise the children of Israel. Adonai, they knew. Some of them knew, not all of them, that Jonathan did taste from the honey. They didn't open the mouth. They didn't tittle-tell. They didn't was a moser. No one was a moser here. And that's what the prophet putting an emphasis on, that none of the Jewish people opened his mouth. Surely someone knew. No one opened his mouth. That's how the prophet praised the children of Israel, because they knew that the punishment will be there. Let's see in verse 40, how did Shaul HaMelech now decide, okay, to find who's the guilty one. And in verse 50, he said, Vayomer el kol Israel, אתם תהיו לעבר אחד, ואני ויונתן בני נהיה לעבר אחד, ויאמרו העם אל שאול, הטוב בעיניך עשה.
He then said to all Israel, you will be on one side, and I and my son Jonathan will be on the other side. And let the lot be conducted. The people said to Saul, do what is proper in your eyes.
Again, the children of Israel knew that someone tasted. Some of them knew that Jonathan tasted. Shaul HaMelech came to them and said, we're going to make two groups. One on one side, all the soldiers of the nation of Israel on one side, and me and my son on the other group. And let's see what the lottery will say. Is it the group of the soldier, or a matter of fact, it's me and my son on a group that's guilty? What is the children of Israel say to the king? Do whatever you see is right. Whatever is good in your eyes is good. No one opened his mouth. And look how much emphasis that the prophet put to tell us that the Jewish people, even in that situation, that they knew that someone guilty. And they not been answered by the Urim and Tumim. That means that there is no communication between them and the Almighty in heaven. They don't open their mouths. No one was a Moser here. In verse 41, the prophet actually described what's happening in that lottery. Let's see. ויאמר שאול אל אדוני אלוהי ישראל, הווה תמים וילכד יונתן ושאול והעם יצאו.
Saul said to Hashem, God of Israel, produce a flawless verdict. The side of Jonathan and Saul was singled out, and the people were absolved. They weren't responsible.
That means that here, that after Shaul decided to make the lottery, what happened? Him and his son, that was on one side, been found guilty, while the rest of the soldier not been found guilty. Still, no one opening his mouth, no one saying a word. Look how you can praise the Jewish people when they're united. Okay, in verse 42, in this verse, ויאמר שאול, הפילו ביני ובין יונתן בני, וילכד יונתן.
Then Saul said, cast a lot between me and my son Jonathan. And Jonathan was singled out.
Basically, in that verse, the prophet tells us that they make a lottery between Shaul HaMelech and Yonatan, and who been found guilty? Yonatan. Now Yonatan been found guilty that he tasted from, that they didn't know what happened, but he been found guilty that he eaten. Okay? According to the nation, most of the soldiers think that he's eaten. He been found guilty. And verse 43, ויאמר שאול אל יונתן, הגידה לי, מה עשית? ויגד לו יונתן, ויאמר, טעמתי בקצה המטה, אשר בידי מעט דבש. הנני אמות.
Saul said to Jonathan, tell me, what have you done? And Jonathan told him, and he said, I did indeed taste a bit of honey from the tip of the staff that was in my hand. I am prepared to die.
Here you see something extraordinary, that King Saul was a real king. What does it mean, a real king? A king that if he make a say, he doesn't change. Melech shel emet, a king, a true king. When he found out that his son is guilty, he asked him what happened. Jonathan obviously explained to him that when he reached to the forest, he saw the beehive, he saw the honey, he had that kind of a panic, of a hunger, and he knew if he wouldn't taste from it, he will die. So he took his stick and he tasted from the honey, and his eyes been lightened, that means his soul come back to him, okay? But he said to his father, I'm willing to die because I break the oath. Although that I didn't know that you make the oath, he was willing to die. Okay? In verse 44, let's see what Shaul decided to do. Is Shaul going to continue with the verdict? Is he going to put his son to death or not? Let's see. ויאמר שאול, כה יעשה אלוהים וכה יוסיף, כי מות תמות יונתן. Wow.
So Saul said, so shall Hashem do, and so shall he do further, if I do not carry out my oath, for you must surely die, Jonathan.
Here we see that the prophet, that's it, telling us that Shaul decided that the punishment of Yonatan is the punishment of death. Even if he can't do it, the Almighty will punish him. Why? Because he break that decree that he made, that his father made. Okay? That the father make a decree, although that he didn't know, but he eaten, the punishment is death. Okay? And he said that his son obligated for the punishment of death. And in this verse, we'll see the first time the reaction of the soldier. ויאמר העם אל שאול, היונתן ימות? אשר עשה הישועה הגדולה הזאת בישראל, חלילה. חי אדוני, אם ייפול משערת ראשו ארצה, כי אם אלוהים עשה היום הזה, ויפדו העם את יונתן ולא מת.
But the people said to Saul, shall Jonathan die? He who has achieved this great salvation for Israel? A sacrilege. As Hashem lives, not a hair of his head shall fall to the ground, for he has acted for God's sake this day. So the people redeemed Jonathan and he did not die.
In this verse, the prophet tells us that the first time, now we see the reaction of the soldier, and they was all united. And actually, they answering Shaul when he decided to punish Jonathan by the punishment of death. They said that's not going to happen. Until now, we kept quiet. But now, we're not going to keep quiet. Nothing going to happen to Jonathan. Not even one hair from his head going to drop down. He's not going to die. And to prove to you that what happened, that what he done was by mistake and he didn't know, because Akadosh Baruch Hu actually done the salvation through him. He's the one that willing to sacrifice himself. He was the one to start the attack and the fight and the war against the Plishtim. If it wasn't for Jonathan, wouldn't be a salvation. Akadosh Baruch Hu, in his merit, done the salvation to the Jewish people. So that's a proof that Jonathan didn't done it at purpose. Therefore, he's not obligated for the punishment of death. And not only that, now they come the knockout. They're going to redeem Shaul, Jonathan. The Mefarshim ask, what it means they redeem Shaul, Jonathan, and Jonathan didn't die? I'm going to bring three different interpretations. What's happening? According to the Pshat of the Dvarim, the words that they spoke to Shaul, King Shaul, they managed to convince him that Jonathan not obligated for the punishment of death. The Mefarshim explain that another idea, that the soldier came to Shaul and they said to him, we have to do an annulment of the vow. You have to do annulment to the vow, to your decree. Jonathan not going to die. Jonathan was the one that started the salvation for the Jewish people. Akadosh Baruch Hu would not allow him to be that one that had the merit to do the salvation to save the Jewish people if he was guilty. Therefore, we have to do annulment of the vow. The soldier done annulment of the vow to King Saul. That's why Shaul didn't kill Jonathan. That's one interpretation. The second interpretation. The third interpretation that the Mefarshim bring, they bring a different idea. And they say that the soldier took Jonathan and they weigh him. How much does Jonathan weigh? And they say to Shaul, whatever he weigh, we're going to give you money. That means they're going to give him gold, what they took from the Plishtim. And with that, we're going to redeem Jonathan. That's what they done. That means, how did they redeem Jonathan? By that they brought gold and said that gold belong now to Hashem, to the Almighty. That we redeem the soul of Jonathan. So the Mefarshim bring three different ideas how they redeem Jonathan, that he wouldn't be killed. Amazing. But what do we learn from him? So far we'll see that Shaul HaMelech, although that Jonathan was his son, although that he loved his son, he didn't twist the judgment. Shaul was a king that saw only the Almighty. That in his eyes, what important is the true in the eyes of the Almighty. Let's go now to verse 46 and let's see what's happened in verse 46. ויעל שאול מאחרי הפלישתים, ופלישתים הלכו למקומם.
Saul then went back up from chasing after the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their place.
Very interesting. In this verse, we see something very interesting. Shaul HaMelech actually gave up. He decided that I'm not going to chase the Philistine anymore. And in the meantime, the Philistine managed to spread around. They managed to escape. They returned to their places. Shaul HaMelech decided that it's enough. I'm not going to chase them. Why? That the time that he took to make the lottery, okay, that span of time, that time that took to do the lottery, helped the Plishtim to, number one, to escape, number one, to return to where was their camp, their countries, their places, and to run away. Shaul decided that I'm not going to continue fighting. Here in the verse 47, we see what the prophet tells us about Shaul's position as a king, what's happening. And in 47, ושאול לקד המלוכה על ישראל, וילחם סביב בכל אויביו, במואב, ובני עמון, ובאדום, ובמלכי צובה, ובפלישתים, ובכל אשר יפנה ירשיע.
Right. Saul consolidated the kingdom over Israel. He waged war against all his enemies all around, with Moab, with the children of Ammon, and with Edom, and with the kings of Zoar, and with the Philistines. Whenever he turned, he inspired terror. Phew.
Yeah, in that verse, the prophet tells us that the action that Shaul done, the one in a war, the way that he wanted to judge his son, the way that he accepted the atonement that actually consolidate his kingdom, he become more greater. People appreciate him more. People didn't have now any more question, should he be the king? Shouldn't he be the king? Everyone realized that Shaul is a great king. The prophet continued and tell us that Shaul HaMelech continued to fight with the enemy of Israel in the north, in the east, and in the south. Okay? Who did he fought? The prophet tells us that he fought with the children of Ammon, the children of Moab, the nation that called Moab and Ammon. By the way, they come from Lot, okay, from the two daughters of Lot. And then the Edomite, Malketshuba, and the Philistine. And in every one of those wars that Shaul had to fight to defend the Jewish people, he actually wins the enemy of the Jewish people. What a great almost ending, but we'll see now what's happening. And verse 48, ויעש חיל ויח את עמלק ויצל את ישראל מיד שוסהו.
He assembled an army and struck Amalek, and he rescued Israel from the hand of its oppressor. Rescue.
No. And here was the war that, as a matter of fact, next week we're going to continue to speak about it, that what's happening, that war was the one that actually was the final decision what's going to happen with Shaul. In this verse, the prophet described to us that Shaul gathered his soldiers and they're gone to war with the nation of Amalek. And Shaul won the war. He won the war, okay? But he didn't annihilate them, okay? But we'll see in the next chapter, please God, next week. He won the Amalekim, and he actually brought the self-confidence of the nation from the Amalekim, because the nation of Amalek used to suppress the children of Israel. By that he won Amalek, he brought the Jewish people their self-confidence, and the Jewish people wasn't anymore suppressed by the Amalekim. In the next, I would say, 4 verses, we see something very interesting, because here the prophet described the family of Shaul HaMelech. And look what it says in verse 49. ויהיו בני שאול יונתן ויסוי ומלכישוע ושם שני בנותיו, שם הבכירה מירב ושם הקטנה מיכל. Okay?
And the sons of Saul were Jonathan. He says here, Yeshvi, and Malchishua, and the names of his 2 daughters. The name of the older one was Merav, and the name of the younger one was Michal.
Okay, here the prophet actually telling us the name of the children of Jonathan, of Shaul HaMelech, that he have Jonathan, Yishvi, that means Ish-Boshet. Hazal explained that Yishvi, it's actually Ish-Boshet, that we're going to read later on. Malkishua, that was the 3 sons. He have also 2 daughters, Meirav, that was the older one, and Michal, that was the youngest. And actually Michal married later on the next king, David HaMelech. Michal married David HaMelech. In verse 50, the prophet tells us something very interesting. Now he tells us the name of his wife. Veshem Eshet Shaul, Ahinoam, בת אחימעץ, ושם שר צבאו אבינר בן נר, דוד שאול.
The name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam, daughter of Ahimaaz. The name of the leader of his army was Avner, son of Saul's uncle Ner.
Okay.
And Saul's father,
Yeah, that's it.
That's 51. All right. And
Yeah.
Saul's father, Kish, and Avner's father, Ner, were sons of Abiel.
In these 2 verses, we see that the prophet tells us the name, the wife of Shaul, Ahinoam, and then not only that, he tells us who was the minister of defense, who was in charge about the army, Avner. And Avner, okay, he tells us that something very interesting, that Avner in him was uncles. That means, later on he tells us, and he explained, that the name of the father of Shaul was Kish. And Kish have a brother, okay, and his name is, what was his name? Ner was the father of Aviner. That means that Kish, the father of Shaul, and Ner, the father of Aviner, okay, they was the son of Aviel, and both of them was brothers. That means that Shaul HaMelech and Aviner was cousin. In verse 52, and with that we're finishing actually chapter 14, it says something like this: ותהי המלחמה חזקה על פלישתים כל ימי שאול, וראה שאול כל איש גיבור וכל בן חיל ויאספהו אליו.
The war against the Philistines was intense all the days of Saul.
Continue.
Sorry. Saul saw any mighty warrior or military strategist, he would take him to himself into his army.
Yeah. What's happening here? Here the prophet actually telling us that Shaul HaMelech never had a minute peace with the Philistines. As a matter of fact, we don't have peace with them until today. We're still busy with them today, you know? Shaul HaMelech actually had a very difficult battle with the Plishtim, that the Plishtim always given us an uphill, hard time. And Shaul managed to fight with them, actually managed to win all of those war with them. But Shaul also, every time that he saw a man that is strong, man that had knowledge of war, a strategy, he actually took him and he joined him to the army. And that's how the chapter 14 actually finished. But Rabota, in verse 15, that Be'ezrat Hashem we're going to read next week, we saw that why all of those names brought here, what it was so important, and a matter of fact, in the next few chapters, we'll see what's happened with all of those people. But the most important thing, the war against Amalek, that's how it started. That's how it ended there in verse 48. In verse 48, the prophet tells us that Shaul HaMelech and his soldiers gone to a war against the nation of Amalek. And we learn what was his mistake, and we'll see why the Shabbos before every Purim, we read that parsha. That's going to be the Haftarah, by the way. That's going to be the Haftarah of Shabbat Zachor. Shabbat Zachor, it's the Shabbos before Purim. We read the Haftarah from that book. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we'll see what's happened with Amalek and what was happened in the end with Shaul, with Yonatan, and what's happened with the prophet Samuel. Be'ezrat Hashem, that we're going to learn next week. We're going to start. It's also a long, it's actually not so long chapter, but there's a lot of detail into it because I start to write the show. And a matter of fact, it's I reached only to verse 12 or 14, and the amount of what do you call it, information that there is behind it to explain the war, it's took close to a half of what we done from chapter 14. I know that it's less verses, but the information is much more that we have to bring. We're going to explain what's happening there. And we're going to bring, obviously, the Eser Sfirot. We bring Sfirat HaNetzach, that's Shaul HaMelech, like we explained at the beginning of the Shorim when we done to the introduction to the book of Shmuel, what's happening there with the Sfirot, Be'ezrat Hashem, next week.